Copyright 2017 Win Your Brand. All rights reserved. This video is subject to copyright owned by Win Your Brand. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this video is expressly prohibited, unless Win Your Brand has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.
Okay, hi everybody. Just it's one of the Zoom things which is doesn't make it to work. It's whenever we want to work. So I want to start first, and I want to welcome everybody. This is a high conversion seminar webinar. It's a series of 6 weeks. And then what we will do next is we will have a workshop where we can actually market this webinar. The idea here is we would like to design a seminar webinar so you should be able to offer or sell or introduce your offer and service. Before we start, if you can go to the chat line and just introduce yourself and where you are, or where are you joining from. I understand there are about 38 registered in this course, and some of them cannot make it and some of them can. So if you can reach out to the chat line and just share with us who you are and from where you are coming from. I hope if I do play, it will work. Yeah. So, if we want to start and talk about the demographic of small business, we are in a small business, and if you are not in a small business, it means you have more than 99 employees. Small business are defined as about 98% of Canadian businesses are a small business, and they create 87% of the new job. And if you are not a small business, please write in the chat room. And if you define yourself as a small business, just say yes. So the question will be is, how can a small business from 1 to 99, or majority of us as well as 1 to 4, will be able to sell or to introduce product to the market? The whole purpose of this particular 6 weeks is I will share with you some information.
Even if you go to the website, the link that we give everybody, you can pay it there and just put in your number. But he won't do that either, because that's still considered online banking or online payment, right?
So I don't know who.
It's kind of the same, because you still pick your bank and pick. It's just because that link, right? When you go to that link,
everybody first,
it lets you pick, and then when it asks which account, that's where you put in your business number plus RT, RC,
Mike, you have some. Can you mute yourself, please?
The amount.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So coming back, so if we are 98% of us are small business, 1 to 4 or 1 to 99, the question will be is how we can get more sales or more introduction to our service one-on-one. It will not work. So myth number 1 is I will sell one-on-one and I will meet my customer, then convert them to buy once we develop a relationship. I have been seeing this concept in so many network marketing areas where people will come and say, yeah, you should know the customers and they will buy from you because they know you. In the sequence, we'll talk about it today, and I will share with you what are we doing every week. Because as I said, the goal of these 6 weeks is to come at the end of the 6 weeks and have a webinar or a seminar presentation, and I will share on week number 6 the exact difference between a webinar seminar. You come and just have this sequence, and basically you start to launch it out to see how much conversion you'll be able to get with this new sequence. So this mess actually it's have been introduced by multi-level marketing and network marketing techniques where they want you to sell only to people you know. The problem with this approach is you have 24 hours a day, and you will work on your business usually 6 to 8 hours or up to 12 hours if you are really into desperate mode. So you don't, and if you assume to get somebody to meet somebody to buy, you will take half an hour to 1 hour. You are only limited to meet between 6 to 12 a day. Assume you are not doing anything else. So in this case, if you want to sell one-to-one, you will not be able to get so many customers or so many prospects to deal with you. The other aspect of this relationship building is, do you believe that you must have a relationship with every customer buying your service? If you believe so, please type in the chat room yes. If you don't believe so, type in the chat room no. So do you believe? Yeah. So if you don't believe that, I see Marcel is saying no, which is the right answer. If I believe I will have a relationship with every customer, it's good if you are selling a $10,000 to $100,000 profit business or profit sales. So if you are selling $500,000 worth of products at once is one sale, and this sale will create about $100,000 profit, you will only make 1 to 10 sales a year, and in this way you will be able to know each customer. But if you are in the mode of selling online training or selling service, which is around $100 to $500, to reach out to your customers, and here I have an example of a $100 per sale profit, which basically usually it's about $300 price ticket, and you make $100 profit. To reach $5,000, you need 50 customers a month. And if you wanna $10,000 a month, you will need 100 customers. So the question will be, will you be able to capture and build a relationship with 100 customers every month to buy your product? The immediate answer for me is no. You cannot base your business on relationship selling. I understand that if you are doing modality, like you are doing healing or you are doing readings, and I know my good friend Paula here, she is excellent in reading animals and reading nature. If you are doing these readings, you will find out that the price tag usually per hour will jump from $100 to $200 up to $600 an hour. Or you can do a group coaching or a group reading, or you can do group workshops. So if you are doing business based on relationship, I would ask you to be open and put this concept aside and follow what we'll talk about today and see how it will work. And the result of having this perception of relationship selling, we end up having this closing. And one of the favorite store for me, which closed down, was Sears. And I did not buy from it when it was open, except very few things. And when they closed down, I could not find replacement. And Sears is one example of the closing that they did not keep going on marketing. They just basically assumed that customers will going back. So closing businesses everywhere, it's a function of running wrong sales strategy and not be able to fulfill the requirement of the customers. The biggest example we have here was Target. When Target came to Canada and they invest more than $3 billion, they lost all the $3 billion because they could not fulfill and they could not keep the shelves busy. So myth number 2, That everyone needs my service and product. When I meet business owners, they always have the impression that everybody around them needs this service and product. And the question for you, how many of you here believe that everybody needs your service and product? And if you believe so, why not everybody is buying your service and product? So the input to you here is, if they need the service and product, they will buy it by now. Like if you sell something which somebody will in need of, they will find a solution. And one of the biggest question was for one of my customers. She sells knives and appliances for kitchen. And I asked, like, what is the replacement of a knife? Like, why people will buy your high-end brand knives? And nobody will realize that's using your hand to cut and shred and grind. It's an alternative for knife. So individuals will not buy because they need your product. Individuals usually buy, or customers usually buy, because you identify a specific pain point, and these pain points will relate to this pain point, and then they will buy for the journey. They will buy for the happy outcome. The problem when you have this concept is you will find you have been rotating jobs. So people will go from full-time to part-time job. People will be switching jobs because they always believe that people will go and do this kind of service because they need it. And I've seen it in so many modalities. Individuals will start with like a fitness, and then from the fitness she will do, for example, Kayani. And I'm not associated with Kayani and by any mean, but just use it as an example because majority of you will know Kayani. So she will do then different type of weight loss program, and she will start moving away from the fitness program by offering other services, and she will become part-time in so many jobs or part-time in so many services. And this will lead to a reduction in the attraction for her business. Myth number 3, I'm an expert in the product, and then they will buy from me. How many of you will feel if they are expert in the product, people will buy from them? Please, if you feel so, I would love you to share and say yes. If you feel like you are an expert in the product. So can you go to the chat room and say if you agree that if you are expert in the product you offer, people will buy it from you? Can you say yes? And if you don't believe this is our requirement for people to buy from you, please say no. I actually like what Paula was saying. They must like, know, and trust me. And I would just say I wouldn't agree with they must like, know, and trust you. And I will explain to you in a few minutes why I would just want to shift a little bit this approach. But if you are an expert, people will not buy from you. People need something else. And I will share this with you in a few minutes. So here I want to plug this model in front of you. And this model basically, it's a staging of messages. This sequence, we will come to it later on in a different, when we come back to a different, I believe it's in part 4 of this workshop or this course. And we will come and talk about this kind of staging messages. And these messages, just to give you an idea, people will start to be general audience. And these are the general people which you'll meet everywhere. And when you have general, you can transfer them to audience. And from audience, you can transfer them to lead, then prospects when you have communication with them. Some of you may have clients which they offer them a free course or a free workshop or a free token. And then you can have customers who are paying you money. And then these customers can come and return customer by upselling them. They can be referral customer or they can be retired customers. This is the messaging techniques which I will cover through this course. And it's basically, it defines different pain points, it defines different messages you need to have. So if you don't have such a messaging techniques, if you don't understand what you talk and what you say about your business, you will basically not be able to convert, hire people. And what will happen is you realize that you cannot make money to love your friends and support your family, and you will not be able to make money. And moreover, the money value actually have been shrinking over the years. So if you will not be able to grow your business by acquiring more people, you will not be able to grow as a sustainable business to the next level. So our target here is engage audience, expand your reach, increase your sales, maximize your profit, and you'll achieve immediate results. Do you all agree on that? If you agree that this is the target cross of the audience, please go to the chat room and say yes. If you have other targets of engaging your audience, you should be able to write it down so I will get to learn more about what you do and what's your target. So we will achieve this target through presentations, and presentations can come through different ways. One way is you can do a seminar or a group meeting, and usually seminars are between 20 to 90 minutes seminars. And the idea of this seminar is to get people to engage to the next level or to close them to the next level. You can do a webinar, which is something similar to what we are doing here, but I'm not selling at this particular course. It's basically 100% training, so there is no sales. However, the presentation I will share with you, it has a sales component in it, which I'll explain it in a few minutes. You can also do a group meeting. So the techniques we are using will be valid for a group meeting or 2 or more or 3 or more around the table. You will be able to use these techniques and this kind of presentation with or without slides, and slides is one of the questions. So we are doing 3 types of presentations to engage our audience. And according to our analysis, we are doing speak to sell, which basically you will go to an event and you'll give a presentation. And the whole idea is that you cannot sell through the presentation. You will basically sell through a follow-up emails or a follow-up sequence. If you do this kind of presentations, or you have a potential of doing this kind of presentation, please type 1 in the chat room so we'll get to know how to focus the next part of the presentation. You can sell through the presentation, which means at the end of the presentation itself, you will be able to put a signing sheet or a signing link or a purchase order somehow. And before you conclude your presentation, people will be able to sign inside your presentation time. So even if they sign after you come down from the stage or after you close the webinar, you will be able to get their cash right away, get their credit card number. The last type of presentations is called speak to enroll. Speak to enroll means you wanna do a presentation where people will have a follow-up phone call or a follow-up, so you can have a one-on-one enrollment. Many workshops we attend, they usually have these coaches and they tell you, okay, we have a laser coaching or a focus coaching session for you for half an hour, and you will leave the group and then you will go sideways. And basically this will allow the coach to enroll you inside the workshop, the following program. So I noticed Paula has one on 19, and I'll explain quickly how, or actually next time, but I can have a one-on-one with Paula and just explain to you how you can do this to be able to attract follower or people who can follow what you do without selling from the stage. By the way, the word selling does not mean cash. The word selling means advance your audience from in the series I showed you. So if they are lead and you are sitting in front of you, they are prospects. If they are audience, you want to get them to be lead or prospects. It does not mean you walk away with their cash. Sell mean you move them in the sales process to the next level. You closed this stage and they are now in a second stage. This is one of the techniques which I will present today. It's called challenge your client to buy and don't ask questions. What I would like you to consider now is, if you want to engage your audience, we have an emotional waveform, and this emotional waveform you should engage your audience, then you should reframe their problem to what you can solve, and then you can create rational, you can create emotional impact, and from this emotional impact you give them a solution and you show them how your solutions will rock. These kind of approaches have been developed in 2012, and this is the essence of selling by challenging your audience, that your solutions will be the best fit for their own problems. In these models, we don't ask too many questions. If you understand the standard sales process, they will tell you you should ask more questions, so you will be able to know how your customers, what's their problems, you know more about them, and you have relationship with them. And the questions goes back to you. Do you ask your customers so many questions? If the answer is yes, I would say, would you mind for the rest of this today, just open up a little bit and understand that I'm explaining a slightly different model, and this model will allow you to do much more by selling one-to-many. If I would like to get this model, and we do have, if you go to the learning portal, we have a specific courses for 3 days actually on this model and so on. If I go to these models, this model will dictate my presentation as follows. My presentation will start with hook your audience. When I say my presentation will start with hook your audience, my presentation will start without a title, without my own why, without saying who I am and what I did in my life, because people are not interested. And I'm happy to be behind the electronics now, so I can speak my mind very clearly. If you come and say, here is my why and why I'm doing what I'm doing, early in your presentation, people will not care. We don't care. We only care about why you are doing what you are doing. If we foresee you have a value proposition for us, or we foresee or perceive that you understand our problems and you are willing and you have a solution to provide to our problem. These are the only conditions where people will say, yes, I would like to know your why. I will position you as an expert. So in the sequences, we will talk about it in the next 5 weeks. We want to use the very first slide. The very first slide will be a hook on your audience. And I am saying the first slide here because I want you to grab, and I will have some hands out for you in the portal. And I hope each one of you are able to access the portal. And the video recorded as well will go to the portal within few hours after this talk. So you will have a chance to review it if you like. And the people are not online right now, they can see it as well. So I would like you to do the first step right now is you plan to have a PowerPoint slide or slides, and the first slide will be hook your audience. And we will talk about the hook and what does the hook look like. Then you need to express your expertise. And your expertise will reframe what you can do to your audience. And the questions usually I get, like, what do you mean express my expertise? If you remember, I told you, hands cutting, grinding, and are alternative for knives. So if you are selling high-end knife, there are so many alternatives which people can use till they pay you $100 or $200 for a knife. So how you can position such a product? Another approach, if somebody working in the personal development side, in the self-worth or whatever you are doing, like whatever modality you have, you know that there are so many modalities will treat the same symptoms. So you can have Psyche, because Mariana was us here. You can have Reiki. You can have angelical Reiki. You can have so many other modalities where it will help people finding their purpose and love their life and move on. So what I want to say here is, when I express my expertise, I want to reframe the problem of similar audience to the expertise I have. So the second step is we need to express your expertise. And we will come into examples how we can do that. Then after that, within 20% of the time, you are doing a title. And this will be the title of the presentation. Then after that, you have to say your why. When your why will come and your story will come after a title, your story will come as endorsement for your expertise and why you are the best. And in this environment here, we are talking about group sales, not one-on-one. So these techniques are used for presentations. So then you should challenge your clients with how you buy. And be careful here. We use the word the clients because we are looking to position this presentation where you will talk to your clients to convert them to be audience. Then you give them an irresistible offer, and from that point, people will close down after you proactively address their objection. This is the sequence where it allows you to close the deal effectively. And in the following 5 weeks, we should have a presentation in a form of a webinar or a seminar, where your webinar you can provide it electronically, and seminar you will be able to provide it in person, where you will achieve this particular results. An individual who have been using this technology or this particular techniques about 1.5 years ago, he used to close 8% of the room to 10% of the room. The minute he started to adopt this particular approach, and I direct him how he can enhance his presentation, I found out that he closes between 53 to 67% of the room. Using these particular techniques, and as a personal experience, I closed one time 117% of the room. More people actually sign up than the people in the room because they sign their friends in. So this is a technique which is different than what classical presenter will say. And what happened is it has a better closing rate. By the way, these techniques, which is the technique, have been used by marquee or flagship individuals in our market, like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, if you go to Get Motivated, seminars and workshops and see all the speakers, almost 80% of the speakers will use this technique. And this is the structure they use. But however, if you plug in your knowledge to it, it will be different from one to another. Only those who will have knowledge, only those who will have knowledge of the platform or the technique, they will understand what's going on. So we will go over this 8 parts every week. So today we hope to finish by the express your expertise. And the idea of the working group here, or the classroom, or the workshop, whatever you call it, within the 2 hours, you should be able to put information down so you can prepare, that you can present after 6 weeks using this sequence. So do you agree to move forward on this particular sequence, or anybody has, if you have any input or any objections, please share it in the chat. I can read the chat, but I don't want to type because I don't want to take away from my presentation. So, but if you agree, if you agree that this could be a sequence to engage your audience, if you can type yes in the chat room, it will be great. So the question will be is, what is your hook? When I presented early on in 2003 in front of my mentor who passed away, who taught me these systems, he said, the hook, you have to imagine the following. Your audience will be sitting in front of you, and your audience will open their skull, expose their brain to your expertise. So your hook has to be well crafted to engage them. So if you have a hook right now, can you summarize your hook in the chat room? Like, what kind of hook do you have right now for your presentation? Okay, I will thank you, Mike. Just I have a cold, so my flu start to come on me, and I am happy to be on conference call, so I don't have to give you transfer the flu. Can you just type down in the chat room what is your current hook? Like, what kind of hook you have to engage your audience? Come on, guys, you don't have any hooks? Okay. If you don't have any hooks, let's move to the next level. So hooks are, you can have okay. Remember when we talked about the myth number 3, that you believe you are the expert. So the 2 hooks we've seen here, they are not the proper crafted hooks, because hooks usually are either stories or statistics or videos. You can have different other hooks as well. However, when you have statistics as a hook, people will understand that you are expert in what they have, and they know that you are aware of the market. So if Mike, for example, say, my hook that I have knowledge that most people overpay their taxes, I would say 90% of business owners overpay their taxes according to Statistics Canada or whatever, and this will give people the wow factor, because if I am sitting as audience in front of Mike, I would say 90% of business owners overpay their taxes without knowledge that they are overpaying their taxes. So when I select a hook, the hook shall be a wow factor, and it should be also a pain point. 90% of us will buy on a pain point. It's only 10% will buy on pleasure. So you should have a statistics or a story which describe pain points. For individuals who just started in this field and this is maybe their first presentation or their first webinar, seminar, whatever it is, I would recommend to have statistics. Statistics are very easy to say. A wow statistics will get people to say, yes, we belong to those who are 90% of business owners who overpay their taxes. Now, Yasser, he said, make your strategy work and the operation more effective. This is not a hook. It does not have a pain. So if I want to switch this hook to a pain point, it has to say people are less production and they don't know if their operation is optimized, or people they leave out on the table more than what they get because they don't know. And it has to be statistics. So the wow factor has to be painful, has to be pain point, and it has to be also statistics. And the statistics are immediate demonstrations that you are the expert. If anyone wants to put their hooks, and I want to give you like a couple of minutes to figure out in your presentation, which you will do it and complete it by the end of this particular 6 weeks, what kind of statistics you would like to have to open up your presentation with. Remember, the scene is as follows. Somebody introduce you to the presentation. You will walk inside the room or you will go online and you will start with this message. 90%, 95% of business owners overpaying taxes without knowledge. Or it will be your own statistics. So if you can identify what kind of pain point do you solve and what are the relevant statistics going along this pain point. So if you come up with a better hook and you would like to share it with us, it will be great. Yeah, so something like 98% of entrepreneurial women make less than $1 million in annual revenue. Yeah, I like the 98%. And the question for you, is it annual revenue, what count, or profit, what's really count? But this is kind of statistics where people will wonder, okay, so how can I do it? Anybody else wants to share the hook? Remember, the hook is relevant to a pain point, and I will come in a few minutes to explain to you how we can structure the pain point. Okay, to move on, if you remember in our sequence, we talked about you want to express your expertise. And your expertise after the hook will come as what are the nuggets or what are the information nuggets that you will share about your audience that somebody like them has the problem and then he was able to overcome the problem and reach results. So do you have data point or nuggets which can provide the pain points that your audience will suffer or we are currently suffering or they want to change? So these nuggets will put your expertise down, will understand that you understand the market. So if I will pick up the Mike example, for example, he has 90% of business owner overpaying their taxes without knowledge. Can we talk about how long these business owners are spending time on looking for numbers? This can be one nugget. You can say business owners spend that much percentage of their own time working on collecting information for taxes, and they will actually still overpay the taxes because they don't know. We can also have nuggets like business owners, when they are faced with the brown envelope, or when they are faced with the envelope, they don't know what to do and how to address it, and they will tackle the problem after the problem will start. So what kind of nuggets or what kind of other information you can use it to back up the hook? And if you have any questions, please, you can either write it in the chat room, or you can basically unmute yourself and ask it to the group. Like, I like this to be like more of interactive. It's particularly in this part where we are working to get you into a flow of presentations. Do you have clarity on what the nuggets means?
Well, it's around Michelle. Do you mean something like more than 80% of women are opening businesses?
It could be, yes.
So it's kind of related to what I said of the 98% only make less than $1 million, but yet more than 80% of women are opening businesses every year.
Yes. What other information can you get?
In particular to women in business?
In particular to the pain points, like you must have at least 4 pain points you solve for your customers.
Okay.
So each one of the pain points, and I pick up the number 4 because I will show you in a couple of slides what are these pain points. So the pain point or the trigger for a customer to buy, they are 4. And you must have 1 trigger in each quadrant.
Right.
So if you don't have these triggers, people will not buy. It's that simple. If anyone else wants to give a chance, you can unmute yourself or write it in the chat room, or we can move forward.
So you mean something like not enough money to live the life they want?
Yes. This could be another one.
Stress, right? The financial stress that this causes.
This can
it's not even just financial stress, it's just stress trying to balance.
Yes, this can be a third one.
Okay.
And remember, when you have so many nuggets, you will not use all of them at once. You will use them appropriately with the right audience.
Okay.
So if I am in front of young entrepreneurs, they don't care about stress so much. But if I am in front of single mom entrepreneurs with teenager, they will talk about stress.
All right.
And we will come to adaptation in session number 5, how we can adapt these nuggets.
Right. So just to confirm for myself, and I'm sorry, I'll mute myself, the nuggets really are the pain points and the triggers. They're related to those.
Yes, nuggets are information about the pain point that somebody else was able to overcome. And for each nugget, we have to back it up with a story.
Okay.
And the story must be structured as pain point, defining moment, and happy outcome. So when I come and say a story about a specific client who has pain points, and these pain points, the clients make a defining moment to change by engaging into my service or a service similar to my service, and I will share what happy outcome this individual have been achieved. This will make up the story. Anybody listening to the story like this, if they can relate to the pain point, and if they relate to the happy outcome as a desire, all what does it take is what? It's to follow the path of the defining moment, which is basically joining your program. When we come and say you have a hook, you can always back up the hook with a story. So I can have a hook. 90% of business owners overpay their taxes without knowledge. And I can give an example of somebody I worked with. And this body will be, I will explain the pain points. He was so busy, he was overwhelmed, he did not have enough attention for details, and he did not do so much into bookkeeping. When I met him, or when he joined my services, I was able to reduce his taxes by $8,000 or by $10,000 from last year because I saved him the money. You guys would like to save similar amount of money. When we talk about 95% of women entrepreneurs make less than $1 million, do you have a story? Remember, the stories here has to be very well crafted. They are stool on 3 legs. Pain point, 3D defining moment, and the happy outcome. And if you want to understand the power of the story, we have been telling stories as a human being around the firesides since inception. We all, in the long time ago, when we started as a human going around, we will sit around firesides and we will basically talk about the story. And the story is how we communicate. And I had a working group session with Mike and Mariana, which is our audience here today. And we also found out that the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, all of what they have there is stories. So if you believe in this religion, all what you read there is a function or a version of a story about a group who were suffering and then something good happened to them. A group who have pain point and then something good happened to them. So if we understand humans have been around fire telling stories for communication, if we understand that the different religions or whatever you believe in, it's always about stories, and the stories will come to a pain point, just copy the model. Copy the model of, if I will give you a hook, the hook, or I give you an information nuggets, I will say the information nuggets, and then I will give an example of it, how it's applied to you via a story. And the story is pain points, 3D defining moment, which is 3-dimensional defining moment, or defining moment, and happy outcome. To give you an example of that, I have a book coming which will be around how to tell characters in stories from the stage, where we will describe so many of this kind of pain points, because I will share in 2 slides that all pain points are rooted to 4 different areas. That's it. So if I want to come about story about somebody getting through a divorce. So we had fights all the time, and on this particular day, he or she decided to tell me, it's over, I am moving out. And I sat on the couch and I saw them leaving from the door, and I looked at my kids. I didn't know what's happening, or I look at he or she looked at the kids, and she didn't know how to plan or how to design. And she decided to join a program for divorce recovery. And what happened is she was able to better financially stand and better emotionally stand, and she joined the group, and the group started to support her and give her help and all what she needs, and she's enjoying life right now, and she became she come in the second job and the better job, and she was able to increase her income. Do you agree on the structure of this story? If you agree on the structure of this story, you can say yes in the chat room. Now, the defining moment, I can make it 3D. How do I make it 3D? By take you through a walk. So I will say she sat on the couch and she looks through the window and she's seen the U-Haul truck, or he sees the U-Haul truck going away on the driveway. I was sitting there smelling the aroma of the coffee, or I was going there smelling the tea, the coffee of the smells of the mint. I heard the door slam, and the door slam actually hurt my ears. All of these are approaches to make it 3D. Now, when I start to explain the situation in this way, sitting on the couch, looking at the U-Haul truck on the driveway, smelling the coffee aroma coming from the coffee maker, and I heard the slam of the door. Are you engaged with me? You want to know what happened next? If you are engaged and you would like to know what happened next, I can give you the happy outcome, and I will ask you, would you like do you agree? Or would you like to have the same results? So when we structure these stories, we have to structure them into levels or sequences. The first sequence is very straightforward. Is we have pain points. Can you just write down what are the pain points of this story? Then what defining moment? And what are the happy outcome? Then you go and do the following. If you are in front of audience and you know their pain point, like you are in front of teenager, for example, you know their pain points are different than other single mom or senior wise people. You can match, if you match the pain point to the room or to the crowd in front of you, and you ask them to make a confirmation saying yes, at that point, people will say what? We agree with your pain point. If you have the same pain point and I engage you through a 3D defining moment, share with you the happy outcome. This is demonstrate the current situation, how the journey will go through the program, and then the happy outcome. It does not say what you do and how you do it. Do you agree? So we use this structure for stories and testimonials. Remember, the pain point shall be the pain point you solve to your customers. The defining moment is how they will join, and the happy outcome is what is the end results or the end journey or what you could promise at the end of the service. Now, if you start with a hook and you have a pain point and the defining moment will include that they join your program, it gives what we call it here, seeding an offer. People in the audience, they will understand that to come from the pain point to the happy outcome, there is a possibility of joining a service you offer. And if you have this service and you can offer it, it will not be hard to come and ask them to join the offer or to go to the next level to achieve the same results of the offer. Any questions at this point? Is it clear? If you have questions, please write them in the chat room, and I will be more than happy to answer them. So you don't have questions, so I have a homework assignment for you. The first assignment we talked about is you need to craft the hook. The second assignment will be, can you craft 3 different stories based on 3 different pain points groups. So you group your pain point, and we will talk about how we can understand pain point in the next slides. Can you come with 3 different stories, and the 3 different stories will talk about pain point, what is the defining moment, what make people to change, and what are the happy outcome. If you come up with these 3 stories, please share them in our Facebook group, and we will get you feedback on them. So the homework is you have the hooks. You can have 1 hook, 2 hooks, whatever, however number of hooks you have, and you can do stories based on pain point, defining moment, happy outcome. One more thing I learned also is if you will structure your story in this way, people will not get lost in the story. How many of you went to events and attend seminars or webinars and realize that they get lost in the story? The speaker is just talking, and there is no really, I lost my interest because he's saying a very long story I could not comprehend. If you structure your story in this way, first of all, you will not need any handout because you know what pain points you have. All what you need is to vocalize or say what are the pain points. Secondly, if you find yourself time running out and for any reason, you can always wrap it up and say their defining moment is, and the outcome they received was 1, 2, 3. So if you lost the audience for any reason, you can get them back or walk them back into where you were talking. When you tell a story, you don't stand and say, I'm telling you the pain point right now. It doesn't work like that. You start the story with description of the pain point, and then description of the defining moment, and then description of what are the happy outcomes. So please do the homework within the week if you would like to see change. Remember, transformation will happen with application of information. Just exposed to new information, it will be a fantasy like Disney, and I'm not running Disney shows, okay? So we will use the same structure for testimonial, and we'll use the same structure for stories. Every week, I will show you this tool, how it can be used. This tool, it's a 3 legs right now. It can be 5 legs. It can be 7 legs based on how complicated and how sophisticated you want to get into it. However, stick to the 3 legs tool right now. Figure out your hook. Figure out the story to back up your hook. Figure out your nuggets. Figure out a story to back up each nugget. So if we ask you for 1 hook, 3 nuggets, and you end up having 4 stories, is amazing. In the future, when you stand in front of different audiences, I will share with you techniques how to swap the stories to match the pain point of the audience. From now on, there is no why story. Even your why story, it must be clear why I'm doing it. Here is my pain points, what make me decide to change, and here is how I changed, and the happy outcome which I achieved. That's it. This is how you define your own why. I know there are so many courses and so many workshops about defining your own why. However, remember, if your audience will empathize with you, they will buy. But if they sympathize with you, they will not buy. Because we donate for sympathy, but we buy when we empathize. There's a very fine line between both. And if you use it wrong, people will not buy from people who are weaker than them. The whole concept about, can I show that I am vulnerable and I can demonstrate my vulnerability? The answer is yes, if you are selling a specific kind of products. However, if you will continue perceived as vulnerable, nobody will buy from you. So the happy outcome has to close down the vulnerability. So showing vulnerability and the crying from the stage, 80% of us will fail at it. There's only 2 individuals I met in my whole career. When they cry from the stage, people will buy more from them. One of them is 82 years old. She's so gifted, and she teaches us these models. But we cannot do like her. It's completely orphan or basically unique attitude that's not anybody else can copy. It's a very personalized attitude, and I would not recommend it for anybody who is starting to get into this emotional. You have to control the emotion, because if you get emotional, what will happen? You will stumble upon the words, you will struggle with the words, and you will lose the audience, because the audience now will not have a heart-to-heart connection with you. They will actually have a sympathy to what you do. And when I cough, and because I have this interesting flu, people actually got disengaged, and people say, yeah, you know, be careful, because when you cough, the voice will not come through. So if you have this experience with me here, and I know a couple of you as well are only here because they are offering very shortly similar workshops, similar courses, and I left the video on so you can basically see me as well. You may not allow the videos, and if you have the experience as recipients, write it down and don't repeat it from the presentation stage or the presentation viewpoint. Any questions so far? If you have any questions at any time, you can basically put it in the group chat. I sneak a peek every now and then on it. And as you see me, I have no notes. I basically have some guided slides, and I was just basically talking about the slides. That's it. Because I know the structure, I know what I want to do. Everybody's clear on the homework? So the homework for now is you need to write a hook, back it up with a story, 1 to 3 nuggets, back each nugget with at least 1 story. And please share this inside the closed group or the private group we have on the Facebook. And if you share this with the Facebook group, everybody will get back to you and say how to make it powerful, how to make it stronger. The biggest challenge I've seen in speakers today is when you want to practice some examples or some platform like the platform I'm sharing with you here, you will practice with people who are not aware of the structure. So they will give you wrong feedback, or feedback need to be corrected because they don't understand what you are trying to say and what you're trying to achieve. The biggest message here is you can seed your offer with a story. Seed your offer with a story means in the defining moment, you say, they bought my service, or they bought XY product, or they use this service, and this is your service. If you come and say, people who want to lose weight, they believed in low carb and different diets, and they found out that the weight will come back, then I was in the show, or I was referred to them, or they were referred to program XYZ. And when they went through the program step by step, they lost significant amount of weight, and they kept it for so long, for a couple of years, for 6 years, for 4 years. People understand now that XYZ is one of the key factors. Do you agree? So in this way, I am seeding my offer. So if I come later on and tell you, here is the product XYZ, can you use XYZ at my cost? Or can you buy XYZ? People now will be ready because they actually agreed they want to lose weight and they want to keep weight loss. So seeding your offer with a story, it's a very important part. It comes as, it's not a hard sell. It's a soft presentation. We are, as Canadian in Western Canada, we don't like to be aggressively selling. If you are doing the presentation in East Canada or in the US, in high competitive area like San Francisco, Chicago, or New York, connect with me, because these particular presentations need to be more aggressive, and you need to change the stories a little bit, and you need to be more aggressive in how you position your offer. If you go to an areas which basically now is not a fast-paced environment like Oregon, Texas, wherever, Arizona, this is not a fast pace. So these areas, you don't use You can use the Canadian Western style, but there are different styles for different regions. And we have expertise in how to customize based on true statistics. So when you present to different culture like Australian or Canadian, or it's different than the US, it's different than Europe. There are different techniques, different tips I can share with you if you like. Then the biggest question will be is, okay, so I will sit there and I will show my words, my service, I will have events, and I would like to get people to do actions and results. And the problem we've seen is when you present in front of people, people will receive with their selected attention. And their selected attention will be like a goggle. They put on their face and they say, I would like to classify the presenter and only understand from the presenter what I like to understand. I will only listen to what I like to listen. Then if you give them a proposition, they will have their own biased interpretation to it. And their biased interpretation can kill you, and can kill you because if you will be seen as somebody they don't like, they will basically shut down and they will not listen to you. Then after that, they may have a talk around, and they may have a talk with themselves, or they may look you up on the internet, and this will give them uncontrolled information. So if I will go around and I will look you up on the internet, and I cannot find you, and or I will go to a social media platform and people will not know about you, or I will search some feedback about you and I will find it really not supporting. This kind of information, it can kill your business. So when you are making an offer, you must understand that this offer needs to be backed up by communication among people who will support your offer. It has to be backed up with very strong internet presence. You can interject with their self-talk. How do we interject with their self-talk? By sending follow-up presentations. For example, we are doing a couple of things, and we are sending all of these reminders and all of this different. You'll get some couple of emails after this, and it will basically get your feedback and few things like that to try to guess or to break these cycles. Then what people will retain is based on their biased memory. And what I want to warn you here, people will retain an experience. They will never retain your expertise. So people will retain an experience of how they interacted with you. Are you warm? Did you give them fuzzy, warm feeling that they are served well? Are you providing them information they need? Are you in a help to their problems? This is what they retain. And their retention is completely biased based on their memory. You need to interfere with it. The retention will drive them to feelings and thoughts, and feelings and thoughts will drive their emotion and behavior, and then they will take action and the results, and these cycles will keep going and going and going. This model has been developed maybe in 60s or 50s, and we at Win Your Brand interjected a couple of extra steps, which is the retention and the coupling of the both models, because this is how we understand your audience behaves. That's why at the very beginning of your presentation, you must say along the line, do you want to know more? Do you agree? If you have this background about how to present, because you have other coaches give you how to present, be open and put aside. Are you open? Which is the same technique I had right now. with the same technique I use. And I use these techniques, as sometimes I say, on even my personal life. Because when somebody is getting into a friction or a trigger, they may be doing themselves a disservice by following these particular protocols. So your role as a presenter is to break down these circles to make them available, to make their attention available to receive the information. We will talk a lot about how we can drive this through the next 5 weeks and how we can tune our stories and our hooks to match and to break different points in these cycles. And I would like you to watch this particular screen. And as I always say, if you have any concern or any questions, please put it in the chat group. And at any time, if you have any questions, you can always email me, or you can always put them in the Facebook group that's always monitored. And the Facebook group, usually we get an answer within a couple of hours to 4 hours maximum, I believe. So everybody will benefit. So do you have any questions on this particular slide? The following question is, did you see this behavior before? Did anybody on the room here seen this behavioral before? Yes, I know, Mike, because we have been talking about it for some time. Okay. So this is the whole cycles and how the things, the information will iterate and will repeat. Now, I want to talk about the behavioral triggers. And if Ranchelle, are you still on the line? Okay, she might.
I am.
Yes. So when we talked about the pain points, I told you that, or I told everybody that the pain point are 4 quadrants. And whatever you do for women in entrepreneurship, it must be rooted in one or more of this quadrant. So people will trigger to buy or to engage based on a dollar or a value, based on a relationship trigger, based on a process information trigger, and based on time to urgency trigger. If you have the 4 quadrants together in one presentation, in one message, you will increase your conversion rate. So when you talk about the information nuggets and the hook, usually you pick up 2 of these triggers or this pain point and you speak to it. So for example, what is the value? Or what is the dollar correspondence? You mentioned it. You said $1 million or less per year, right?
Yeah.
But so what an example of a relationship? They don't have repeated customers. They don't have satisfied customers to grow their customer base. They don't have good relationship with their employees and they have high turnover. They don't have good relationship with themselves and they became stressed and they don't know what to do and they became stuck.
Right.
What is the pain point of a process information? They don't know what to do. They don't have a system to implement. They implement the wrong system.
Right.
And what about the time? Time passed by and they don't get results right away. So if you don't get results right away, if you cannot change right away because you don't have the proper system, because you don't know how to maintain good relationship with people and you cannot make the money you like, I have a solution for you.
Okay.
How many of your audience will fall into at least 2 of these 4 categories?
That'd be about 50%, wouldn't it, in general?
All of them must fall in at least 2 of these because there is no other triggers.
Perfect. Okay.
When you talk about dollar, is not greed, is not they are holding money. When you talk about dollar, it's either dollars or credibility of you to provide value. So people who are interested in dollars will be people who are looking for you, and they are looking for credible resources. And I will always talk about this in a very interesting way. I have methodologies to understand how people look and what they value. So if you walk, and this will be intuition, and I hope Paula will comment on that, because Paula is in this business as well. But I know she went to a client, so she will, maybe we can choose her next time. If I walk to a room and I find everybody bringing their green shake and their nuts bag and their seed bags, and they put in front of them, what these people reflect on me right now, where these people triggers are. These people, they have this green shake because they want to have better food, they want to have better relationship with their body. So these people most likely will trigger with a discussion on how you can impact their relationship, not urgency for delivery. When you have somebody coming with the Chanel glasses, with a Burberry bag, and coming in this particular, standing in front of you in this way, these people will have will love credibility. They need you know that you are credible. They only buy credible products. Even, and I'm not here to judge if Chanel is credible more than Burberry. I'm not judging in this way. I am saying that if you have this observation, if you see your audience in this way, you have to speak to their triggers. If you have individuals who have a bottle to water in front of them, they just need to have effective quick access to water. They don't care about the environment too much. So this most likely will be a time triggered individuals. And you can tell about the process. The biggest challenge I've seen that we usually belong in two of these quadrants. And once we belong to these quadrants, we always talk with the same language from our quadrant. So if you sit with project management, with engineers, they always talk about the how. They never talk about the what, or the when, or what's the budget. If you talk to CEOs and business owners, successful business owners, they always want to know how much money, what's the value, and how long will it take to implement. They wouldn't care much about the process. If you give them process discussion, you are overwhelming them. You have to ask them for permission to tell them how it works. Does this make sense to you guys? So when you structure your presentation, you have to consider different languages for your pain point. And I will share with you next time what kind of language you can use. The last piece in this particular engagement models is the engagement models is function of the emotional state. So if people are pressured, they may have different emotional states. And if people are happy, they will have different emotional states. And you can measure yourself. How many of you, when they are happy, they will they will go to restaurants and spend so much money? And how many of you, when they are pressured, they will not consider the money, they will consider some other priorities? So each one of us will have different behavioral emotional triggers. The following model is, which we'll talk about it in a later stage, is these are the 7 pillars which has to be included inside your presentation. And the 7 pillars are consistency, reciprocity, appreciation, scarcity, social proof, authority, commitment. And you should be able to consider the triggers, as well as you should be able to consider decision-making dominant dividers, And I will share with you next time how you can use the kinesthetic, audible, visual, and digital visual personality. When you talk about emotional states, because I see question on the emotional states, we talk about from negative emotion to positive emotion. So hyphen VE means negative, plus VE means positive. And this particular part will conclude the first session of the workshop of the course. What we described today is a different structure for a presentation, seminar, webinar, which should engage more people in a better way. It will start with a hook, and the second one will be the information nuggets. Hook and the information nuggets will be matched or will be supported by stories. Your homework right now is, can you draft your hook? And can you draft 1 to 3 information nuggets? And can you draft for each hook and each information nugget at least to one story, which is pinpoint, defining moment, happy outcome? The last 2 slides about the triggers and the pillars, I will be able to explain it to you next time. I will stop here, and if you have any questions, more than happy to take them vocal, unmute yourself, or put them in the chat room, and I will be able to answer them. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, I will see you next week in the same way, in the same time. And we will, the recording will be available, and you'll get an email with the access, how to access the recording shortly. And share your hooks and nuggets inside the closed group or the private group, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Copyright 2017 Win Your Brand. All rights reserved. This video is subject to copyright owned by Win Your Brand. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this video is expressly prohibited, unless Win Your Brand has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.